Hey, you. I've been given this opportunity to talk, and I'm going to grab it while I can. Let me start by saying I'm very grateful to the people who stopped by and my have watched my work over the last year and the last few months and weeks and days. And turns out that sometimes people even share this stuff, and I'm extremely grateful to those people who do that. Um, we want to try and reach more people. Um, I just read a comment on a previous video from a few days ago by a guy called Pete Mahoney, I think. Hi, Pete. And I appreciate the comment, but it does, it's his comment was along the lines of um, I'm being naive when I'm looking at the way of geopolitics. Um, and obviously I'd be concerned that I was being naive. I'd feel like I was selling myself and others short if I was seeing things in a way that was obviously naive. um, he was commenting on perhaps my comments directly after the Ides of March event, when I might have been treading more cautiously around what I was saying, because it was the event had just occurred. But I appreciate the feedback, Pete, though. And I will bear that in mind. Pete also said, I thought was interesting, was that Tartaria is a distraction, as is flat Earth, and we have to look at ourselves and be mindful that we are being entertained by and regaled by wonderful tales of a, a lost history that has been hitherto hidden directly under our noses. And I've asked myself this question about the Tartaria mud flood story because it's so compelling, and it just happens to be coming out at this time when you know when people are getting a little bit kind of stale on the flat Earth and going, okay, well, we don't need to, we don't need to be, we don't need to sit in flat Earth chat rooms so much because we've exhausted ourselves on trying to convert the deaf and the blind, and we have sort of satisfied ourselves that we are not insane and that we live with a lot of other people who can see what we can see. Um, but after you get through that, you realize that, well, we're still just our regular kinds of people, and the fact that we're now not on a globe and we're on a flat Earth doesn't mean that all of a sudden everybody becomes your busy buddy. That's just not how it seems to work. Of course not, because we still have eons of internal work to do. So we've just been given a clue or some clues that there's something much more to this game than we realized, and we now need to do the work on ourselves. But the system which has given you the casino entertainment and the Hollywood and all those things of entertainment and the political Punch and Judy show and the marching his 10,000 men up here and down there and across to Australia and over to New Zealand and now in the Netherlands, you know, that they're just providing another tool for mass entertainment and to hold your mind and to stop you from going where you're meant to go, to go and look where you're meant to look, inside and within. I mean, I take very seriously this idea that we should or should not, or I consider very closely this idea that we should or should not be rising up, appealing to the system to forever change itself, to alter itself. Please stop your greedy ways and so on. And obviously, from my approach, you can tell I don't think that that's where it where it's at. And and is in terms of traveling somewhere like a North Pole, assuming that the North Pole we think is the North Pole is the North Pole. I don't assume that to be accurate, but I don't know that it's necessarily that either. I think that whatever's coming down the pipeline, that it's significant and it's been well thought out. And I take refuge in the knowledge that the Most High has seen all of this, preempted all of this, and it's created the conditionality for us to pursue our self-growth or collective growth over the coming period. It's not possible to make predictions other than very sort of thumbsuck predictions on what is to come. Thanks to a pal called Dario the other day, reminded me that what comes after the flood is the fire. I'm not able to say whether that's what I think is going to happen next, because I really don't know, and fire could be interpreted in a number of different ways. Semi-automatic fire, for example, is a type of fire that one could be said is what was written about. It's curious, isn't it? I've seen that Ides of March event in Christchurch. I've seen a little bit of that video footage again of the alleged shooter firing his weapon for a number of rounds. I mean, I don't think I counted them, but I'm going to just say off the top of my head, it's 15 rounds are popped off. And it appears that the bullets are layered in after the fact, right? As CGI, because they don't seem to ever strike the ground. And the video is clear enough to be able to discern either the sound or the sight of them bouncing, glinting as they bounce off the ground. Now, the reason I got to see it again is because the SGT report had another look at it this morning or last night. And you'll know that the video has been, the video of the shooting has been banned by the New Zealand authorities. I don't know if they're able to, this is some sort of worldwide thing, they're able to kind of extend it worldwide, but it's $200,000 and 10 years or 15, 14 years or something if you view it and share it and so on. And now that approach has a number of benefits. They can bring in more legislation, they give themselves more power to go into your computer from a remote situation, more snooping on net traffic if they don't need enough, if they're not doing enough already of that. That sounds like Alexander didn't go to sleep in the end. Anyway, so the thing about the Prime Minister saying that we've got to pull this thing, or you're no longer able to view this thing, it's either because, I mean, aside from the political gain, it's either because they know it's so obviously going to be, shown to have holes in it, or this CGI thing is being proven so quickly, or they want, and so they don't want people to see that, or they want people to know that it's got fakery in it, and they really want to push that out there and get a lot more people aware that they're being punked. But for for my good subscribers of Trinity 4, the channel here, I will offer you something from a personal insight of using weapons in live fire situations against live human targets. And the truth is, if you go back to that clip and get to see it again, the truth is you would never fire at live targets and hold your weapon in exactly the same place for 15 shots. Pop, 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 pop. Because live targets are never going to stay in the same place. They're going to be moving. And for you're either going to be moving the weapon, or you're going to be moving your own position to adjust to how they might have taken shelter or refuge somewhere. Even if they'd taken refuge behind a bush, you wouldn't point the weapon at exactly the same spot and just fire off shot after shot. Equally, a powerful rifle like that has quite a recoil kick. I mean, I have to say I haven't looked at the specifics of this weapon, but for a shooter to have no kind of pull away from his shot, like when it does this, it kicks when you fire, and even a strong man is going to have to kind of just rear. If he's looking to shoot on the same spot, he's just going to have to readjust after every shot when you're holding it like that. Perhaps if you were holding it right up into your stock into your shoulder, you'd be able to get firm enough on that. But there's a kick. So I would say, I don't know what their agenda is, but it's obviously, I assume, I don't watch the news, and this type of thing doesn't, even though we see it as truth seekers, it doesn't necessarily make the first 2 or 3 pages of the newspaper, if the newspaper at all, or even the news cycle. So this kind of thing, it's only us that's most interested in that and that. But a lot of people, if they think that it's a horrible video showing gruesome death, which is what it's purporting to show, then a lot of people will say, well, then yeah, it should be pulled, and shame on you for even wanting to try and watch it, and even more shame on you for questioning its veracity. Hey. So that's my kind of I'm not quite sure why I was summarizing that, but it's the play is live and real, and it's going on, and we could spend a lot of time exhausting ourselves over that. And I see in the sort of mainstream narrative, there's a lot of soul-searching, breast-beating kind of. There's a gnashing of teeth, a wailing and a gnashing of teeth going on about people self-flagellating, the white folks or European folks self-flagellating themselves, or Muslims feeling like we've been so badly put upon and so on, creating that kind of victim mindset, as they've done in so many other sort of ethnic conversations. They've done that with the homosexuals too, so it's not even about an ethnic thing, by the way. It's not a color thing. It's just a tool, So homosexuality, who created any sort of restriction on homosexuality but the churches and the governments. The government said, oh, if you do this, we'll put you in prison or flog you. That's so that's what the certain religious orders and governments do. They put in the restriction, and then from amongst that group that have been restricted come a few leaders and those leaders are then given special privileges in return for accepting certain concessions for their group, and so you over time create a whole movement around the acquisition of rights and stuff back from the state that took it from you. It's a crazy game, but people just go ahead and play it. And this is where I'm kind of at, is that so when people say, okay, we've got to go and fight this system, well, you're giving the system its energy. You're fueling the system by saying, yes, you're a system. We honor you by coming to fight you, by meeting you at a place of your choosing or a space of your choosing, at one of your forts, one of your battlements, and coming in and petitioning and throwing spears and what have you, to demand some change. Well, that's again, it seems to me the wrong way around. And the reason why people are willing to give themselves over to government, the subjection of their mind, is because they have forgotten of their sovereignty and the absolute power of their mind and the power of who they are and what they are. And so we have been seduced into disempowering ourselves and empowering that which should be working at our behest. So maybe that's where I'm naive, Pete, is that I think that to continue to petition this system to change, to beg the system to change, is to be a believer in the Q. I don't mean the QAnon, I mean the QAnon. The idea that within the system will come. Someone said it to me the other day. Well, we just in England, people are convinced that Jeremy Corbyn is the savior to all their problems, and it's funny how, again, over the last 10 years, this character has been sort of manipulated in the public mind from being, the worst kind of evil to, oh my God, imagine if, we could get this guy to come in, he would sort out this problem of immigration and so on. I mean, Pete was making the point about, the grooming gangs and the reality of the horror of what goes on and so on. And one can not but be appalled at these sorts of things. One cannot be but appalled. We circumcise our children because some book or some religious leader, some cult says that it's a good idea, and now the medical cult says it's a good idea in some places. We circumcise boys and girls. That's barbaric. We fashion weapons with greater and greater killing power. We fund through our taxes biological weapons laboratories that create ever more toxic poisons. These poisons then get sold to other countries who then poison their population, and that happens in return. We allow for the taxation of your time and effort such that 20 to 50% of your life energy, at least, is given away to a system of taxation that benefits a system that need not be. We do not need necessarily to have a banking system that is structured in the way that it is. It could be a very different world in which we said, look, every person that comes to this earth could have a certain grant available to them. That's, I think, in natural law what's meant to be the case, and that's been usurped, such that we have a tsunami of suicides from people who are struggling with the financial system. We have a tsunami of serious illnesses, brain stem illnesses, cancers. People are dying in their millions, Pete. Millions every year. from the despicable acts of deceit and misdirection and toxicity that has been dripped fed into this system from the very beginning. So any kind of idea that we kind of make nice, we go to war with, we cozy up in some way or another with the system is, to me, like anathema. I can't, other than to say, all right, well, let's all pretend that it's actually not so bad, and we'll just kind of go along with it because we're in the club. A little bit like Joe Rogan, I suppose. Well, you see, because the Alex Jones, Joe Rogan kind of mindset would go, yeah, fuck this. We must all stand together as patriots, and we've got to stand against this government and stand blah 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 blah. But it's like it's it's not it's meeting that government at the same level, rather than actually realizing the government is below the capstone. So assume the capstone and instruct these entities how to be. I think that's the only way it's going to happen, such that they don't continue to clamp down on their security state apparatus. I don't see the smart city thing going anywhere other than to create that kind of RoboCop future. Your car was seen traveling, 3 miles over the limit for in that little space of road over there. Middle of the motorway, motorway, 3, 4 lanes wide, middle of the night, no other traffic. But a sleeping robot picked that up, and now you must be penalized. How far are we really from that kind of RoboCop future? And that's where they see that going. And Flat Earth and Tartaria and all these other things are very tempting to keep you entertained. The bright minds of the Flat Earth entertained with more jewels in Tartaria and the Mud Flood mysteries. I'm not criticizing the researching of those at all. I'm fascinated, and I'm fascinated by what the researchers in those subjects come, and I've put enough of my own content out on those subjects, particularly mud flood, to kind of keep someone busy for a while. So uh, I'm not against those things. It's really just, and because I'm absolutely for the gaining of the knowledge, not the, all right, well, we know the Earth is flat. Let's go back to work. We know that it's not a material world. It's actually some sort of wave transmission system within an ether medium, and we're going to kind of pretend that we revere the system, or we honor the system that has known all of this all along and has been misleading us all along for whatever reasons. Why would you, like I said to people many times now, why would you allow your government to have anything to do with cannabis legislation after they have intentionally hidden the truth that cannabis cures cancer? Maybe not all cancers, but let me just say that it absolutely is proven to cure that cancer and many other conditions. Cannabis is probably the primary plant on earth, and yet your government have lied that truth away and have covered that up. Not all members of the government know this. Obviously, this is not how things work. Most members of the government would have been brought up on the same horse poop that you were brought up on, and that is that cannabis is harmful, and it causes this sort of brain damage, and it causes schizophrenia and so on. All the horror, none of the truth. And your government's officers, agents, or whatever have been paid to hide this truth for the reasons of, profit making, one could say, the petrochemical, industrial, pharmacological, medical industry has obviously profited vastly from that. And more importantly, more significantly, millions and millions of people have died as a consequence. Millions of people have died as a consequence. So when we think about child grooming as despicable and disgusting and as low life and all the sort of adjectives you can kind of think of when considering these scumbags, this detritus of humanity, this sort of slime at the bottom of the shark tank or the fish tank. And that's what this is. But it seems that, humanity is made up like a fish tank of strata, but like it or not. Someone would say to me, "Don't be naive, Dave. Not everybody is to ascend on this time around at this time in this place and whatever." And there are non-player characters. There are crabs and langoustines and prawns at the bottom of the tank, and there are beautiful other fish higher up and so on, and maybe that's the nature of this system, is that Sodom and Gomorrah is writ large. You don't put 3 dogs food into a dog cage or dog pen with 10 dogs. Eventually they'll be munching on each other, fighting each other for those scraps. And I think what I used to say this of the Catholic priests. I used to say, well, it's little wonder they end up fiddling with boys, because they're discouraged from having a wife, and so you attract a certain kind of man, perhaps, and you create a certain kind of monster through various forms of conditioning that the Catholic thing brings about. So I make no excuses for it, and I've been vociferous and vehement in my condemnation of the Vatican and its support for its priests, who are so many of whom so often come up with this kind of thing. But you don't see me, and you don't see groups standing in front of a Catholic church on a Sunday picketing against their thing. I mean, I'm not saying it never happens anywhere for a short period of time, but does the Vatican even blink before moving forward with whatever it's moving on? No, it doesn't. It might shift a priest here and it might shift a priest there to kind of keep the waters moving, but it's really not going to change what it does. And I mean, the people who've been affected by Catholic priest fiddling, I mean, that's extensive, and the court cases are massive, and in some cases huge payouts have been made. But it doesn't stop the powers that be saying, okay, well, we're not going to even rely on the Vatican kind of to address these things. We're going to take things into our own hands, and we're going to open the Vatican vaults while we're at it. Because trust me, if I had information that the government thought that they thought they needed, they'd come and get it from me, right? Even if I had a few little plants growing in my garden, they'd come and steal them from me, like they did last year. Can't even walk your child barefoot anymore without them knocking on your door. Sorry to be raking up the past, but I think that we just make excuses for the system not doing the things, and the Q business is the same. Well, we're making excuses why 2 years into the Trump so-called presidency, the Drumpf, by the way, we do know his real name is Drumpf, but that sham called a presidency is 2 years old, and in 2 years he could have done significant things to have started the change the awareness on Earth, and and I don't even have to talk about flat Earth. I'm just talking about some of the more obvious things to do with the waxing. I'm glad I mentioned that. Waxing. I did call this waxing, didn't I? And if you've been listening to hear me talk about the waxing, sorry. You're not allowed to say the V word anymore, eh? So I'm calling it waxing. Hey, it's just a foreign tongue that I have. I carry a foreign tongue. Well, yeah, vaccines. You can't talk about the administration of vaccines anymore because our lords and masters at the military medical services have determined that we must take these vaccines to prevent the outbreak of intelligence, awareness, and the uplifting of humankind. I can't imagine why else they're being so draconian about forcing people into the vaccine agenda. Other than it makes for a really good argument between mothers who really are frightened about their child getting some kind of killer illness versus those who are like me, who realize that nature can take care of pretty much everything if you allow her the time, space, and a healthy platform with which to work. Alexander's coming up for his second birthday next month, and is vaccine free. Um, and he's a very healthy young lad, and we yeah. So, um, so that's my kind of I think that's my spiel for now. I wanted to go and look at the chat because some people have chatted while I've been yakking. So hi. Um, oh, got to go back to the beginning. Hey, Plain Truth. Hello, hello. Hi, Tommy. Much love back to you, brother. Yeah. Um, Hi, Nathan. Cool. Hi, Dave. Love your stuff, brother. Just keep nodding my head every time I listen to you. That's awesome. Greetings from the southern reaches of the plain. Awesome. Is that Georgie something? Dan. Morning, Drew. And Vasilis. Hi, man, brother. Um, yeah, you're a big mudflood or Tartarian guy, so I think. So I do love this research, and in fact, I find some of those subjects much easier to address with people than flat Earth. You can point to a strange looking building. Go, that's curious, eh? What do you think about that? Um, but I was listening to a little bit of Mac Flat Earth Fokker this morning. He was, hey, it's respect to you, bro, for getting out there, and he was talking about how the moment his camera died, some of the ball boys around him got a little bit ugly. And he's asking the question, why are we doing it? What's it for, and who are we doing it for, and so on. Is it just an ego playing itself out? I need to kind of tell the world. I don't know. I'm just following my heart, so I have to just keep moving forward, doing the things that feel right at that time, and the opportunity comes, and so on. He Mac Fokker was asking a few questions that I thought were interesting about that self inward journey, and that this journey is riven with pitfalls, things trying to trip you up. And if you think about like a computer game, as you get to the higher levels of the game, you've got to expect there to be even cleverer and cleverer kind of things. But not only that, perhaps more pertinent, that as you cleanse the parasites from your body, to use that analogy, then as you cleanse the parasites, you are going to experience discomfort as these things leave your life and leave your body. And I guess we're hopefully in that place where we learn the lesson so that we don't have to keep going through that lesson. So, yeah, the system is only being held up by us. We turn our back. Yeah, they do need us, I think. They do need us. I think we are essential to it, and that's the only thing I'd say about the NPC kind of idea, the non-player what characters, is that if that's true, then there is a them and us, and I still struggled so much with that. I mean, I really do, but there might be a them and us, very small us, sorry, they're very small them, but they use some of us, most of us, to so it is about going back to those people who are actually us, and reintroducing them to the idea of their divinity and who and what they are and all that sort of who and what this is, and that sort of thing. It's if you think about what the churches have done and what the governments have done, is they've provided 6 days a week of education and indoctrination through religion and schooling. And so they have your minds go back 2 generations, certainly. They had more religion and less schooling. Now they've got more schooling and less religion, but they have your mind so much of the time. I mean, my children have had to have homework over the weekends and so on through most of their school life. And so they have your mind a lot of the time, and they're able, therefore, to shape what you think and so on. And therefore, that's important. Otherwise, they wouldn't have troubled themselves with all of that, right? So, in order to kind of reverse that, well, or rather, let me start by saying, rather than seeing all of those people who sat in the pews and the schoolhouse and the church house, rather than seeing them as NPCs, see them as brothers and sisters who have been fucked up, or rather, for whom the upfuckery really stuck. You see, because I think to abandon our brothers and sisters and say, hey, you're just an NPC, and to abandon them and say you're just a ball boy because there's something amiss with your wiring, that you can't see that Earth is not, it's an unmoving thing as far as we can tell. um, would the system love for us to say, okay, well, we're going to leave you and create a commune of flatties, and we'll be fine. There'll be no pedophilia, and there'll be no this, and there'll be no, well, that's just not how it even works. I bet there are pedophiles in the flat Earth community. I mean, I'm not trying to say anything unkind. I don't know of anyone at all. You know what I mean? I just mean that the flat Earth community is made up of everybody. It's a smorgasbord of the human psyche, messed up or otherwise. I'm not saying that someone's. I think that for me, one of the most cleansing moments of my transformation here is to realize that the Earth is flat, and then to realize that this game is centered, or this thing is centered on me and us, and that we are much more important, and that the Most High and the game creator, if you like, is right here in our midst and part of that. So if there's going to be anything that, one of the things that has helped me kind of realize the importance on my own shield of truth, is that this is not a Darwinian mudslide, or a monkey becomes man, becomes capitalist, greasy pole game. So you've got to become a lot more responsible for yourself. That's what I find. A lot more responsible for yourself. So if one has been less than moral, less than righteous in their dealings, then this is the sort of thing that might get a salesman to go, you know what, I'm not going to sell what I used to sell anymore. I'm going to do something different. That's, for me, how I think. So not that I'm trying to excuse any particular kind of action in the past. I'm sure that there's many people, I might have even made friends with some, I think, who have had what would be considered to be a criminal past, but this knowledge and insight has changed them to be a more soulful, richer, soulful human than they could have ever have been otherwise. So I just Rain Chad, I hate to leave, but my 2-year-old has to go to nursery. Okay, mate. Well, cool. Yeah, nursery. That's another dichotomy, one we haven't quite addressed yet. Because we all need playmates. We need peers. So I'm sure your daughter's loving that. Um, hmm. Thanks, mate. It's David to write you hurts my soul. Well, I don't want to hurt you, bro, but I do think we need to kind of keep working on the soul. Ask Donald Trump and Q about the 60,000 missing people from Paradise City, California to Landgraf. I think, Tommy, that I know this has been going on, but I haven't really looked into it in any kind of depth. The fires. But when I'm reminded about the biblical story about fires, it's kind of, you know what I mean? Rings a bell. And if that many people have gone, that's that's a disaster of catastrophic proportions. That is big as belief, but anything is possible. Anything is possible. But relocation programs have been ongoing as well for a long time. But if 60,000 people are claiming, I don't know, you just. All I'm saying is that there are 1,000 different kind of horror stories. I get people write to me about the genocide of the white farmers in South Africa. And there are gruesome pictures of people who have been hacked and brutally killed. It seems legitimate kind of pictures, and I try not to look at too many of them because it's awful images to hold in your mind. But this stuff is going on all over the place. People are being savagely set upon by other people. But you have to know it's been designed like that. Set man against man and woman against her sister. If there are wheat and there are tares, and the tares are to be separated at a time and so on, then we will find this out. And those things will happen. If you have the opportunity to alter someone's day and to change someone's outcome and to intervene in a situation where someone's about to become hurt or whatever, then this is exactly what we should be doing. But to have these kind of horror stories dangled in front of me that I can do absolutely nothing about, other than to sit here and be a Richie from Boston fear porn magnet, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be drip feeding people poison, poison, poison. I want to look at this stuff and face it for sure. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, I want to push it under the rug and pretend it's not happening or it couldn't have happened. But again, who are we petitioning? If they can if this kind of thing can go down and they can get away with it and they can have a media blackout and for your government not to know and for there not to be, significant kind of shit changed, then you got to know that we're not really in control of what's going on in the metagame at all. Your sense that your elected leaders are going to take some kind of moral high ground on your behalf, try and let that go because that's obviously not how it is. So we want to look at that stuff, but we also want to continue focusing on the kind of inner stuff because it's the 12 hours and 18 hours a day of researching into these horror stories and looking at frame by frame how these events unpack and so on is the distraction that the system wants. That you might just as well be watching Netflix or porn. So I think bear that in mind. Don't be caught up in the trap of because I think there's more coming. There's more going to come down the line, and they're going to obviously be looking to censor people and to curtail the sharing of that and so on. And we are meant to be outraged and upset that we don't actually have the power we thought we had, and our governments are not reining in the YouTubes and the Facebooks and all that stuff. It's all Punch and Judy. It's all going to rob you of you. And as Andrea keeps reminding me lately, rob us of any kind of fun, and enjoyment. We're also meant to be having a light time here. It's difficult when you immersed in the horror show of what Clinton might be and so on and so forth. I don't have very long because my little boy is up and I need to go and be with him. Hi Joshua. Tommy said, yes, it's way more than just a flat realm. It's proving ball versus flat theory. Shit, it's just dumbed down gatekeeping. It's a flat earth. Move on, yeah, my stuff. I have some time for, I like debating the different kind of models and so on, but in the end of the day, yeah, we need to kind of not stay in the show too much. I'll talk more later. I'm my little boy around. I want to go and do my thing. Hey, Dick Flinghammer. Jedfield Hoax, transgender agenda. Mark, hey, hi. 5 simple steps to freedom. I'll post it in the comments. Yeah, please do, mate. Please do. And we want to learn from one another, and we want to be thoughtful about how we can become better men and women. And but I can speak more eloquently on being a man. Of course, I have that experience, or what I think a man's role in this world should be. Because once you move on from the horror shows and all of that, then you can look at how we do things differently, better. Actually, I'm on Sun and Moon next Tuesday evening, 9 o'clock UK time, talking with Plain Permaculture and Josh X. So I'm interested to learn more about permaculture and how we might gain more from our environment around us. And I think more than prepping like a few tins of baked beans and whatnot, I think that the ability to nurture nature around you is much better for your own well-being, no matter what whether you're having to do it from a like a window box, or you have a little bit of land around you. So I want to just I guess I ended there. I do want to talk more, and not only about vaccines, but that's a very hot button topic at the moment, isn't it? So I don't know. Again, I think that's one of those things that's meant to try and wake people up a little bit, or frighten people into submission. Yeah, well, I I actually today I sent a link to my channel. I had my regular friends from before Flat Earth. I stepped away from most of them a year ago when I started this channel. I cut all my Facebook and all of that stuff off, and so I built this channel without any of my former friends. But today I did send them a link, some of them a link to yesterday's live stream, just because it was because people said some nice stuff. It was well received, and that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm trying to reach out to people, despite the differences. Like I said, we're meant to be top of the capstone, not squabbling over the tier below. The tier below is bollocks. made up by man. And if you can't work that out, you're going to stay in their squabble. If you can work that out and you can get out of the squabble, then, let's try and share our energy and knowledge and insights, and ego aside, let's go, well, how are we going to do this differently? Because we may not change it overnight, but even if it does change overnight, then whatever, we need to be kind of in a good place for that eventuality. And if not, if it's a thing further down the line, like I said yesterday, fuss bait, to hold tight, and that's what we got to do, and we got to be